Hello, my name's Duncan and welcome to Back Away from Donkey and Bath Books. This is going to be part of what I'm going to call my alternative visions sort of series, and it's going to be about books that have a lot of them being translated into English, and a lot of them, and the ones that haven't, will be from different viewpoints, mainly science fiction and fantasy books, just because I don't reckon there's enough especially enough non-English science fiction and fantasy out there that people know about. So about a year ago, I started sort of investigating into some stuff. So this was almost going to be part two of the book that I started the other week, because it was going to show what I picked over the past year, mainly in ebook form, because a lot of them are only available easily in ebook form of these things. And then over the next certain while, I will be reading them and I will be talking about them. And I hope you'll join me in this and any other suggestions we've done. And I'm not covering things like that we know, like the famous, well-known ones like the wonderful Roadside Picnic by the Strugatskis. If you've not read it, you should read it. It is a stunning book. Or even, the Witcher series. These are the ones that everybody knows about. I'm hopefully going to hit on some ones that are less known. So I'm probably going to travel by country. I've got a really nice map. I'm going to do a map, and I'm going to put pins in it or something. I haven't worked out how I'm doing this yet. This is going to develop as I go along. So this video is going to be quite long. I may be shooting it in a couple of sections. I may not be recording it all today. I may be doing it over other days, but it'll be put together in some form that you can understand. So I'm going to start by sort of go by country, what I found by country ebook wise, and I'll put little pictures up the side of so you can see what the covers look like, and I will try and give you a little bit of information of what I know. I won't know huge amounts. So the first one is a book by Isabella Allende, who's from Chile, as a Chilean author, and it's Zorro. I recently read Zorro for the first time earlier this year, and I loved the original Zorro. So this is another origin story, obviously from somebody from Chile, so you've got that perspective, and considering the character is sort of Spanish, in the Spanish area of the time, that could be quite interesting. Isabella Allende is a well-known author. She's done a lot of, as you will find in a lot of sort of Central and Southern America, a lot of the fantasy stuff is a lot of magical realism. So I'm really intrigued by this book. So I've got it on my list, and it's probably going to be one of the first ones I'm going to read, because I'm hitting a bit of a Zorro fest at the moment. So yeah, so that's the first country we're hitting, is Chile, and I think that's the only one we've got from Chile. Next, this one is what I would call a general sort of South Central America one. And what's the general title is, so I have to look down because I can't remember, is We See a Different Frontier, which is edited by Fabio Fernandez. It's got a terrible cover, which I'll show you up there. Well, I think it is. But it's a post-colonial fiction, and it's taken a bunch of authors from that sort of area of the world, and it's the viewpoints of countries, because what you got to think of, we normally see viewpoints, especially of alien invasion stuff, of colonizing. So this is the sort of the viewpoint of the people being colonized, some of it. And there's a bunch of stories in here. Sounds quite interesting. It's all short stories. I'm quite excited to read this. And I said I will put a link down so that you know where to buy this if you want to buy a copy of this, because it does look quite fascinating. Edited by Fabio Fernandez, and it's We See a Different Frontier. I said most of these books I'm excited to see. So if I keep saying I'm excited to see them, read them, that's because I am. Next one, we're in Argentina. And this is Angelica Gorodisha. Terrible pronunciation. She is a well-known sort of science fiction and fantasy author, and she was going from the 70s. So her first book is called Kepler, and this was actually translated by Ursula Le Guin. It's a story of sort of a fabled empire told from all these different points of view from different characters, and its rise and its fall. And it sounds very interesting. I said translated first by Ursula Le Guin, so that could be, as with all these books, when they're translated, the translator will make a huge difference to how they read. An example, I mentioned the Strugatskis' Roadside Picnic. There's a couple of translations for that around. The Masterworks copy has got a different translation to if you manage to pick up one of their earlier versions. But anyway, that's by the by. The second of Angelica Gorodisha's books is Jacara's Tomb that I've got. And this is a set of 3 interconnected stories set around a room, as far as I can read, that this room is like central to a almost haunted house that was a torture chamber. And that's all I know about it. Sounds fascinating. So that's Jaguar's Tomb. It's my second one of her books. Tender as the Flesh by Augustina Barrett. How do I pronounce that? Botsterica. And it is about a society when there's a virus gone round that has contaminated all animal meat. So people start to farm humans. And it's a story of a guy who's actually a vegan who's working in a... puts his sort of morality side to work in a slaughterhouse with humans, because they're farming humans now for meat, and him falling in love with one of the humans that they're farming for meat. Sounds quite bizarre, quite dark. It's really dystopian. I've heard a similar... There was a film a while ago, which I can't remember, which worked on a similar sort of concept. I might have to look out again and try and find out what it's called. But yeah, sounds fascinating. So that is, as I said, the author is Augustina Botsterica. I said my pronunciation of all these names is, I am butchering them. The next one is by Jermaine Osterfeld, and it's another Argentinian one, and it's called The Eternaut. It is technically a graphic novel, produced in 1953. There was another version done in 1969, which was like having a go at the sort of a parody of the Argentinian government at the time. But it is about a snowstorm that comes down that basically kills people on touch as like a precursor to an alien invasion. I've got a copy of the graphic novel. You can find those digitally. The physical versions are not cheap, so I'm looking forward to reading it. There is also a series on Netflix that they have produced, Argentinian, of The Eternaut. It's in 6 parts, and I'm actually 3 parts into this at the moment, and it is fascinating. I'm looking forward to reading this. It's probably going to be one of the first things I'm going to read and review. So that's The Eternaut, and it's very famous, very well known, and there's been a couple of versions on it afterwards. The next one is from basically Latin America. It's called Cosmos Latinos, and it's edited by Andrea Bell, and it's a collection of sort of Latin America and Spanish science fiction shorts, and it ranges from 1862 up to the present day, so there's quite a wide variety. So it'd be quite a nice, wide sort of breadth of the sort of work that's been coming out of there over the years. So yes, that's Cosmos Latinos. Next we go to Cuba. We have Joses Sanchez Gomez, written lots of books. Translated into English, we have Red Dust. Red Dust is like a space opera homage to Raymond Chandler that's apparently very, very good. The other book we have by him is A Planet for Rent, which is about us being colonized by a alien planet and the reactions to it. As I said, I think in those, especially A Planet for Rent, from what I've read, there's quite a lot of comparisons to Castro's Cuba and all the politics going around that, so that really, books like that can really sound like they will be really interesting reads. We're now going to pop over to Japan, and Japan's got a big history of science fiction, through manga, through film, and so not surprising really. And we have The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa, and this is about The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa, and this book is about people on an island, and they are under the control of what is known as the Memory Police, who basically remove memories to make them associate them with objects, places, or people, and it's exploring all that concept. Next one's by Sakio Komatsu, and it's called Japan Sinks, and it's a disaster book. He was a screenwriter and wrote quite a few books, and I said this is a disaster book. Japan sits on 3 plate boundaries, and literally it is about Japan sinking, and so a bit of disaster in our lives. I'm looking forward to reading that one. The next one is by Yasutaka Tastui. That is terrible pronunciation. I'll put some of these names up here, and you can all berate me for them. And it's Paprika. It's about people using dream monitoring to treat mental illness and to remove memories. And by the same author, who I'm not going to butcher their name again, I have Bullseye, which is just a collection of their short stories, which is no one. I'm trying to get some short stories of some of these books, some of these authors if I can, because I think that's quite a way to look at the range of stuff that they are doing. The next one you may have seen around, it was quite popular, called Orbital Cloud by, what was it, Tanyo Fuji. And it is set in the far future of 2020. It was released in 2015, so 2020 was the future then. But it's about a space station orbiting, and it looks like a bit of sort of a terrorism plot come hard science fiction crossover sort of thing. Is that a thing? Because it's about somebody trying to use explosives on this space station from the synopsis that I read. So yes, that is Tanyo Fuji, Orbital Cloud. And I said, I know that one's quite a popular one. Next one, I'm hitting some of the Nordic countries, and the next one is called Nordic Visions. And Nordic Visions is a collection of short stories from places Finland, Faroe Islands, Norway, Sweden, all over that region. So we get to explore a lot of these authors, and hopefully, if they're good, we might be able to find some novels by them. This is Unit by Nimi Holmquist, and it's a dystopian book, and it's older people are sent to like a retirement village, and it comes to the point that they are actually think they're doing worthwhile work, and they're being used as organ donors. Sorry, it's in the book blurb, so I've not released anything on. It reminds me of some stuff that I read before, the sort of concept, but it'd be interesting to see how to do. Sounds like it could be a bit grim, and it could sort of touch on some of the stuff from Never Let Me Go. Next, we're hitting India, which is Chosen Spirits by Samit Basu, and this looks like a sort of conspiracy, social media, technology, cyberpunky type book from all the stuff I'm reading. So yeah, that's Chosen Spirits. Next we have The Wall by Gautam Bhatia, and this is a society where people live within its wall. They've been there for like 2,000 years, and everybody knows their place, as they have forever, and it's whether people push out their place. I suppose it's probably covering ground that Brave New World may have covered, and lots of other similar sort of dystopian books may have, but it'd be interesting to see the perspective of that from this author. Next, edited by Taram Saint, is the Glance Book of South Asian Science Fiction, which is just all short stories. It's called New Horizons, and said from all over that region of the world, we have a bunch of short stories. So whether this counts as the alternative visions, who knows, but it's a bunch of Scottish authors, some known, some not known, and it's produced by Luna Press, which I'm going to give a link to below, because they also did do a Greek book that I'm going to mention in a while, and it's all sort of quite interesting fiction, and might give slightly different views, but I thought that should almost count under the alternative vision thing. But yeah, give it a go. Then we pop across to France. France is a weird one, because France has got a huge history of science fiction, obviously Jules Verne and forward, but very little of it is actually translated into English. They've got, some of the most famous artists like Mobius and Valerian and comic book sort of producers. But they've got a huge, if you look into it, they've got a really huge team, but very few translated into English. Jean-Claude Dugnac, The Night Orchid, which is Conan Doyle in Toulouse. He did a bunch of, this is short stories, but he's done a bunch of sort of pastiches of Sherlock Holmes done in a very, very weird way, apparently. And then we had Bernard Werber. This book is from 1991, Empire of the Ants. Yes, it follows two stories going in parallel, one from the world of humans, one in the world of ants, and then they sort of all join up at some point. So, yeah, that sounds like a really sort of bizarre but fascinating read. The next one, we're in Egypt. This is Ahmed Khalid Taufik, and it's called Utopia. And it's a story of, at the time, Egypt is split into two sections, rich and poor, basically. And it's literally hunting the poor people, which I know has been done a lot in different fiction-y, different science fiction and speculative fiction, but always interested to read another take on that. So this is Spanish, but the author's from Catalina, Albert Sanchez Pino, and this is Cold Skin. And this is about, I don't know, this intrigues me, because I've read one of his books already, which I'm coming to in a minute. This is about, I said it's called Cold Skin, and it's about this guy who's a fighter for Irish independence, and he gets bored with that, and he takes a job as a weather official on an island in the Antarctic, where lots of weird stuff goes on. So yeah, so intriguing. And the next book by him, the one that I have read, is Pandora in the Congo, which I'm going to do a video on in the next sort of few weeks. And this is the story of, it starts off with a guy who becomes a ghostwriter, and then he discovers he's a ghostwriter of a ghostwriter of a ghostwriter. But basically you're following the story of this guy. He's writing the story of a man who comes out of the Congo after going on this trip into the Congo, basically. And it's makes you think of all those sort of Conan Doyle books. It's quite an intriguing book, but yeah, I'm going to do a full sort of take on it and a full review and a few proper talk about it without me trying to remember stuff that I've got written down in the next few weeks. So yes, this is Dumas Club, which is about a bookseller who finds a unpublished Alexander Dumas manuscript, and his investigations behind it, when we meet a selection of people, and there's a bit about demonology in it, apparently. That's according to the blurb. So yeah, so we'll go for that one. So that's the Dumas Club. Next, I've got a selection of books from the Spanish writer Felix Palma. There's about 3 or 4 here published in English. The first one is The Heart and Other Viscera, which is a collection of short stories. And then we go on to there's the 3 books in the Map of Chaos, the Map of Time, and the Map of the Sky. Here we have the Map of Chaos, the Map of Time, and the Map of the Sky, which is a trilogy of books. And it's about this guy whose girlfriend is murdered by Jack the Ripper, and it's a time travel thing, and time travel is always good. So yeah, so that's 3 books in that series. Next we have from Rodolfo Martinez, Cat's World, world spelt with an I, and this was published in 1995, and it's basically counted as the first Spanish cyberpunk novel. So see where that goes. Next we hit Germany with Andreas Eschbach and the Carpet Makers, which is about a planet where their only industry is making these big elaborate carpets, and these carpets are made of human hair or take a lifetime to complete. Apparently this book is more of a collection of interrelated stories all along that theme. Next we hear from my Russian one, which is from Dmitry Glukowski, and that's Metro 2033. Is 2033? That's Metro 2033. It's post-apocalyptic. I know there's been a video game of it out, and it's post-apocalyptic, so yeah, I'll read that one. I didn't know the book, so I think it might obviously be popular because they made it into a video game, but we'll have to see what that was like. And then covering Africa. I know Africa's a big continent, but this is the Africa Risen sort of anthology of short stories. And Greece is a weird one. If you look into the history of Greek science fiction, which I'll probably explore a bit more when I talk about this book, this is Nova Hellas, which is a bunch of Greek short stories done by Francesca Barbini, who is the head of Luna Press, which I mentioned earlier about the Nova Scotia book, which you can buy this one from. She also translated a load of these stories as well. But Greece is a weird one. You'd expect them to have a really rich history of science fiction, but they really didn't start appearing until like the 1960s, as far as I can work out. So it's quite fascinating. Accessing the Future, which is disability-themed short stories, which I'm quite fascinated by, obviously because my wife has a disability, so it's people's worldview. And as I think I said when I was reading about this book, people always look upon disability as something to fix, not something to live with, and especially in science fiction that happens a lot. So seeing this written from a point of view of somebody with a disability, these stories could throw up some really interesting points of view. And I think that's it. Oh, and I've also picked up, I've got the Apex Books of World Science Fiction. I have books 2, 3, and 5. Probably pick up some more at some point. And so they will be on the reading list as well. So yes, so this is like a precursor reading list. Don't know how many years it's going to take me to get through it, but this is all a bunch of science fiction, fantasy, and maybe something else from slightly different viewpoints. So if you keep an eye out for the sort of alternative visions tag, I might put a duty sort of title on some of them or something, but who knows. But yeah, that's basically the reading list and a bunch of books. If you know of any other ones or you've ever read any of these, please let me know. Comments below, up on Discord, email, whatever, because I'd be quite intrigued by this. So I hope you've enjoyed that. It was a bit of a sort of wading through that and just me reading off names and books, but I hope you find that interesting, and I'll put some pictures up so you can see them anyway. Anyway, I will speak to you all very soon, and thanks very much for watching, and bye for now.